She was sitting on her worn-out couch, the soft of the city outside barely penetrating the quiet of her small apartment. The evening had been ordinary, just another night spent curled up with a book after a long day of work. Suddenly, a soft knock on her door startled her. She wasn't expecting anyone. When she opened it, a courier handed her a delicate cream-colored envelope with golden embossing. Her name was written elegantly on the front in flowing script. Puzzled, she took it inside and gently broke the wax seal. The invitation was unlike anything she had ever received before. It was for a private gala, an event she had only ever seen on the pages of glossy magazines or on television. The card shimmered under the soft light, detailing a date and an exclusive venue that sounded more like a palace than any place she had ever visited. Her fingers trembled slightly as she read the elegant words. "You are cordially invited to an evening of celebration and gratitude." Her mind raced, trying to figure out who could have sent such an invitation. It wasn't from a friend or a colleague. No name accompanied the note, except a signature she didn't immediately recognize. She flipped the invitation over, searching for a clue. Her heart skipped a beat when she noticed a subtle, familiar symbol, one she vaguely remembered from a man she had once helped years ago, when life was harder for both of them. Memories flooded her mind. The cold winter night, the man shivering on the streets, the way she had offered him a warm meal and a safe place to stay when no one else would. She had never expected anything in return, just a simple act of kindness. But now, standing in the quiet of her humble living room, she wondered how this stranger had transformed into someone important enough to host such a grand event. Her eyes scanned the words again, disbelief mingling with curiosity. Was this some kind of mistake? Or was there a deeper meaning behind this invitation? The question spun in her mind like a whirlwind, but one question rose above all others, sharp and clear. Why was he inviting her now? At the time she found him on that cold, unforgiving night, her own life was far from easy. She wasn't a wealthy woman by any means. In fact, she was barely scraping by, working 2 part-time jobs to pay rent in a cramped apartment. She often went to bed hungry, putting others' needs before her own. Yet despite the weight of her own struggles, she carried a heart full of empathy and a quiet determination to make the world a little better, one small act at a time. Her name was Maya, a woman in her late 20s, with tired eyes that still held a spark of hope. She had grown up believing in kindness as a kind of secret strength, passed down from her grandmother, who always said, "A little light can pierce the darkest night." That night, as she walked home from her evening shift at a local diner, she spotted the man curled up on the cold concrete steps of an old building. He was shivering violently, wrapped in ragged clothes that did little to shield him from the biting winter wind. Most people would have hurried past, focused on their own busy lives, but something in Maya stopped her. Maybe it was a look of exhaustion and despair in his eyes, or the memory of her own hard times when she felt utterly alone. Without thinking twice, she removed her scarf and wrapped it gently around his neck. "Come with me," she said softly, surprising herself with the courage it took to approach a complete stranger. That night, she gave him food, a hot shower, and a place to sleep on her modest couch. It wasn't much, but it was enough to remind him that someone cared. She didn't ask for his story, only listened when he chose to share fragments, a past riddled with loss, mistakes, and the harsh realities of life on the streets. Maya's own dream seemed distant then. She longed to open her own small bakery one day, to create something lasting and beautiful amid the chaos. But life kept pulling her back, each day a delicate balancing act between survival and hope. Despite her financial struggles, she chose to give without expectation, believing that kindness was a currency richer than any paycheck. That small, brave decision to help a stranger was born not from obligation, but from a deep well of empathy and a belief that every person deserved a second chance. Little did she know then that this single act would one day change the course of both their lives in ways she could never have imagined. The stranger was a man named Ethan, a name he clung to from a past that felt more like a fading dream than reality. His life had been a series of painful chapters, each one darker than the last. Once a promising artist with gentle soul, Ethan had fallen victim to circumstances he could hardly control. A string of bad luck, Family tragedies and a battle with addiction had stripped him of everything he once held dear: his home, his friends, and most painfully, his own sense of self-worth. He had found himself on the unforgiving streets, invisible to most, forgotten by many. That cold night was one of the harshest Ethan had ever faced. The wind cut through his thin jacket like a blade, and the biting frost seemed to seep into his very bones. His hands trembled, not just from the cold, but from the weight of despair that had settled deep inside him. He was curled up on the stone steps of a dilapidated building, trying to make himself as small and unnoticed as possible, hoping to survive the night. Then, through the darkness, came a figure, a woman walking home from work, her breath visible in the icy air. To Ethan, she was like a flicker of warmth in the endless cold. When she stopped and gently wrapped her scarf around his neck, it felt like a lifeline thrown into a turbulent sea. He looked up at her, eyes wide with disbelief, unsure if this kindness was real or just a fleeting dream. Without hesitation, Maya invited him to her apartment. A small, humble place, but a sanctuary compared to the cold streets. She offered him food, a warm shower, and a couch to rest on. For the first time in what felt like years, Ethan experienced the simple comfort of being cared for. He was overwhelmed by the generosity of a stranger who didn't judge him, who saw beyond his ragged clothes and worn-out shoes. That night, as he ate the hot meal and listened to Maya's quiet words of encouragement, a fragile hope began to take root inside him. Her kindness was more than just a momentary relief. It was a spark that reignited a flame he thought had long been extinguished. Ethan felt a profound gratitude that words could hardly capture, mixed with determination he hadn't known he possessed. Before he fell asleep on that worn-out couch, Ethan made a silent vow to himself and to Maya. He promised that he would fight to reclaim his life, to rise from the depths of despair, and become someone worthy of the kindness she had shown him. It was a promise born from humility and hope, a commitment to transformation fueled by the simple truth that one person's compassion could change everything. That night marked the beginning of a long, difficult journey for Ethan, but also the start of an unspoken bond between two strangers whose lives had intertwined in the most unexpected and profound way. What neither of them knew then was how far that bond would stretch, and how deeply their futures would depend on that single act of kindness in a world that often seemed too harsh to care. After that cold night when Maya had offered him warmth and kindness, Ethan's life slowly began to shift, though not without tremendous struggle. The road ahead was anything but easy, and the weight of his past haunted him like a shadow. But deep inside, her act of compassion had ignited a spark of hope that refused to be snuffed out. The first and most daunting step for Ethan was to confront his addiction. For years, substances had clouded his mind and distorted his reality, trapping him in a cycle of self-destruction. With Maya's kindness still fresh in his heart, he checked himself into a rehabilitation center shortly after that night. The experience was grueling, filled with painful withdrawals, emotional upheavals, and moments where he questioned if he had the strength to continue. But every time he felt like giving up, he recalled the warmth of that small apartment, the genuine concern in Maya's eyes, and the simple gift of the scarf that had saved him from freezing to death. Rehab marked the beginning of Ethan's journey, but it was only the start. After he emerged sober, he faced a new set of challenges: rebuilding a life from the ground up, without a home, a steady job, or a network of support. It was like starting over in a foreign land. He took up odd jobs at first, waiting tables, cleaning, anything to keep food on the table and a roof over his head. Yet he never lost sight of a bigger dream that had once seemed impossible. Before his life spiraled downward, Ethan had been an artist. Art was his passion, and the language through which he expressed his deepest emotions. With newfound sobriety, he returned to sketching and painting, using his creativity as a therapeutic outlet and a beacon guiding him forward. Slowly but surely, his talent caught the attention of a local community art center, where he was offered a small scholarship to study formally. This breakthrough opportunity marked a turning point, a chance to prove to himself that he was capable of more than survival, that he could thrive. Even with progress, setbacks came often. There were days when the weight of his past threatened to drag him back into darkness, moments of self-doubt, and the harsh realities of poverty clawing at his confidence. Yet each time he stumbled, Ethan reminded himself of Maya's kindness, how she had seen him as more than a homeless man, how she had believed his potential when no one else did. That memory became his anchor, pushing him to rise after every fall. Ethan's career blossomed slowly but steadily. Exhibitions of his paintings began to draw modest crowds, and soon he was commissioned for public murals and private collections. His name, once unknown and dismissed, started to resonate within artistic circles. More importantly, he stayed grounded. His humility was a testament to the struggles he endured and the gratitude he carried. A man who had walked through fire and come out tempered, not hardened. In social circles, Ethan became known not just for his art, but for his inspiring story of resilience. He used his platform to advocate for those facing homelessness and addiction, often speaking at events and collaborating with charities. His voice carried authenticity and compassion, qualities that stemmed directly from the moment a stranger's kindness had lit a path when his world was shrouded in darkness. Though life had changed dramatically, Ethan never forgot Maya. Her kindness wasn't a fleeting memory, but a cornerstone of his transformation. He often thought about the woman who had given him a chance when few others would, and it filled him with a quiet determination to honor that gift. Over the years, he searched for ways to thank her, though circumstances made it difficult. He wanted the right moment, the right way to express his gratitude beyond words. As Ethan stood on the brink of his new life, his past remained a powerful reminder of where he came from, and the woman who had unknowingly become the catalyst for his second chance. That spark of kindness had grown into a flame of hope and purpose, and it would ultimately bring them back together in a way neither could have anticipated. While Ethan's life was undergoing a profound transformation, Maya's journey was unfolding in parallel, marked by its own set of challenges, small triumphs, and unwavering kindness. The woman who had once opened her door to a stranger remained rooted in her humble life, continuing to navigate the ups and downs with resilience and grace. Maya's days were long and often exhausting. Balancing multiple jobs, she struggled to make ends meet in a city that felt increasingly unforgiving. Her dream of opening a bakery lingered at the edges of her consciousness, a shimmering hope she nurtured despite the relentless demands of daily survival. Financial setbacks, family pressures, and moments of loneliness tested her resolve, but she never let those hardships extinguish her compassion. Helping Ethan had never been about receiving anything in return. From the start, it was simply a matter of humanity, a quiet act of kindness born from empathy and a belief that everyone deserved dignity. Yet, in quiet moments, Maya often found her thoughts drifting back to that cold night and the man she had sheltered. She wondered where life had taken him, whether he was safe, and if he ever remembered her. There were times when Maya faced self-doubt, questioning if her efforts made any difference at all. Bills piled up, her health wavered under stress, and the future sometimes seemed shrouded in uncertainty. But when despair threatened to take hold, the memory of that night, the warmth they shared in her tiny apartment, Ethan's grateful eyes, became a source of strength. It reminded her that even the smallest gestures could ripple out in ways unseen, touching lives and planting seeds of change. Throughout the years, Maya's character shone brightest in moments of quiet generosity. She volunteered at shelters, cooked meals for those in need, and listened to stories of struggle without judgment. Her kindness was not loud or boastful, but steady and sincere, the kind of compassion that grows from experience and deep understanding. She found joy in simple victories, a heartfelt thank you from a neighbor, a recipe perfected after many trials, or the warm smile of a customer at the diner. Each was a reminder that progress, no matter how small, was worth celebrating. Maya's resilience was not about grand gestures, but about the courage to keep moving forward, to keep believing in goodness despite life's hardships. At home, her apartment was modest but filled with reminders of hope. Photographs of loved ones, a small collection of well-worn cookbooks, and a faded calendar marked with tentative plans for the bakery she dreamed of opening someday. Though life was far from perfect, Maya's spirit remained unbroken, shaped by trials but defined by compassion. She never sought recognition or reward for her kindness. Yet the thought that her small act of opening her door to a stranger might have set a life on a new path gave her quiet satisfaction. It was a reminder that sometimes the most profound impacts come from the simplest choices, a lesson Maya carried with her every day. As time passed, the memory of Ethan's gratitude became a beacon in Maya's life, a silent promise that kindness never truly goes unnoticed. It was this enduring hope that would one day bring their paths back together, revealing how a single moment of compassion could change two lives forever. Back in the present, Maya sat quietly at her kitchen table, the elegant envelope resting in her hands. The invitation was unlike anything she'd ever received, heavy, cream-colored paper with gold embossed lettering that shimmered under the soft light. It bore an air of exclusivity, something she never imagined would come her way. Her heart raced as she carefully broke the wax seal, curiosity and disbelief warring within her. As she unfolded the invitation, her eyes scanned the ornate script. A private gala hosted by none other than Ethan, the very stranger she had helped years ago. The words felt surreal, as if she were reading someone else's story. How had he found her? Why was he inviting her to an event so far removed from her own world of modest struggles? The question spun in her mind, mingling excitement with a hesitant anxiety. Maya's first instinct was skepticism. Was this a mistake? Some kind of misunderstanding? She reread the invitation several times, trying to find a catch or a hidden agenda. But all it promised was an evening of celebration, appreciation, and connection. Her thoughts drifted back to Ethan, the fragile, grateful man who once rested on her couch, now transformed into a figure of success and grace. Unsure what to do, Maya reached out to her closest friend, Sarah, sending a photo of the invitation with a simple message. "Can you believe this?" Their conversation was a mixture of disbelief and encouragement. Sarah urged her to accept, reminding Maya that this was more than just a fancy event. It was recognition of her kindness, a chance to reconnect with someone whose life she had changed. Yet Maya's nerves lingered. The fear of stepping into a world so unfamiliar weighed heavily on her. Later that evening, Maya shared the news with her younger brother, who listened intently. "You helped him when no one else would," he said quietly. "This is just life coming full circle." His words struck a chord deep within her, stirring a mix of pride and vulnerability. As the night grew darker, Maya sat alone, holding the invitation close. The name Ethan glowed on the paper like a beacon, awakening memories of that cold night and the promise he made. The emotional turmoil she felt was overwhelming. Hope, fear, curiosity, and the lingering question, what did this invitation truly mean? For the first time in years, Maya wondered if her simple act of kindness was about to change her life in ways she had never imagined. The days leading up to the gala were a whirlwind of emotion for Maya. The invitation, once a simple piece of paper, had become the centerpiece of her thoughts, bringing excitement, anxiety, and a deep sense of uncertainty all tangled together. She found herself staring at her modest wardrobe, wondering what to wear to an event so far removed from her everyday life. Her usual clothes, comfortable, practical, felt woefully inadequate for the grandeur that awaited. Maya decided to treat herself to something special. But even that proved challenging. With a limited budget, she couldn't simply walk into a boutique and pick a designer dress. Instead, she visited a small second-hand shop downtown, where she carefully sifted through racks of gowns. After hours of searching, she found a simple yet elegant navy blue dress that fit her like a glove. It wasn't extravagant, but it was beautiful, and it made her feel like she could belong, if only for one night. As the night of the gala approached, Maya's nerves grew. She worried about fitting in, about the polished guests whose lives seemed so different from hers. Would she be accepted? Would Ethan even remember her? Yet beneath the anxiety was a flicker of hope, a belief that this night might be more than just a social event, but a moment of true connection and recognition. On the evening of the gala, Maya carefully prepared herself. She styled her hair simply, applied minimal makeup, and slipped into the navy dress, feeling a mixture of pride and vulnerability. As she looked at herself in the mirror, she thought of the journey that had brought her here, the struggles, the kindness, the hope, and it gave her strength. Arriving at the venue, Maya was immediately struck by its grandeur. The building was an historic mansion, its exterior lit by soft golden lights that cast elegant shadows on the manicured gardens. Inside, crystal chandeliers sparkled, and the air buzzed with quiet conversation and laughter. Guests in tuxedos and gowns mingled, their confident smiles and effortless charm a stark contrast to Maya's humble life. Despite the awe that washed over her, Maya couldn't shake a lingering insecurity. She felt like an outsider looking in, wondering if she belonged among this crowd of polished elites. But then a familiar voice called her name. Turning, Maya saw Ethan approaching, his warm smile instantly putting her at ease. He looked every bit the successful man she had imagined, well-dressed, confident, but still carrying the same kindness in his eyes. Around him stood a group of admirers, artists, business leaders, and philanthropists, all eager to greet him and listen to his stories. Ethan's gaze held respect and genuine affection as he introduced Maya to his circle. "This is Maya," he said proudly. "She's the reason I'm here tonight." His words caused a ripple of interest and admiration among the guests, many of whom offered warm smiles and congratulations. As the evening unfolded, Maya felt her insecurities begin to fade. The world she had stepped into was dazzling, yes, but it was also filled with people who recognized the power of kindness and transformation. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that she truly belonged, not because of wealth or status, but because of the journey they had shared. In that grand hall, surrounded by elegance and warmth, Maya realized this gala was more than a celebration of success. It was a testament to human spirit and the unbreakable bonds forged by compassion and hope. The moment Ethan and Maya finally stood face to face again, years after that fateful night, felt almost surreal. The crowd around them seemed to fade, leaving only the two of them locked in a shared space charged with motion. Maya's heart pounded as memories flooded back of the cold night, the vulnerability, and the small act of kindness that had set everything in motion. Ethan's eyes shone with a mixture of surprise and deep gratitude. "Maya," he said softly, as if speaking her name aloud was a way to anchor himself to the moment. "I've never forgotten what you did for me." Maya smiled, a warmth spreading through her chest despite the flutter of nerves. The years apart had added a layer of awkwardness, both unsure what to say, but that quickly melted away under the weight of their shared history. As the evening progressed, Ethan stepped onto the small stage to deliver a speech. The room fell silent, all eyes turning toward him. "Tonight," he began, his voice steady yet full of emotion, "I want to honor someone very special, someone whose kindness saved me when I was at my lowest." He gestured toward Maya, who felt her cheeks flush as applause gently swept through the crowd. Ethan spoke of that cold night years ago, recalling the fear and desperation he'd felt, and how Maya's simple act of offering food and shelter sparked a transformation. "She gave me hope," he said, "and with that hope, I found the strength to rebuild my life. Maya's kindness was the light that guided me out of darkness." When he returned to her side, they shared a quiet conversation away from the crowd. Maya listened as Ethan recounted the struggles he'd faced, the rehab, the setbacks, the moments when giving up seemed easier. But each time, he said, he remembered her faith in him, and it fueled his determination. "I want you to know," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion, "that this gala, this success, it's as much yours as it is mine. I owe everything to you. That night, you changed my life, and tonight, I want to honor that by celebrating you." Maya felt tears prick at her eyes, overwhelmed by the sincerity and depth of his gratitude. "I never expected any of this," she whispered. "I just did what felt right." "But it meant the world," Ethan replied. "And I hope this is just the beginning of many more moments together. In that reunion, past and present converge, two lives forever intertwined by kindness, resilience, and the unbreakable bond forged in the most unexpected of ways." As Maya stood amid the shimmering lights and soft music of the gala, her heart swelled with profound realization. Kindness, no matter how small, has the power to change lives in ways we might never fully understand. That simple choice to help a stranger on a cold night years ago had set in motion a ripple effect, touching not only Ethan's life, but her own in ways she hadn't imagined. She reflected on her journey, the struggles, the doubts, and the quiet moments of hope that had sustained her. The reunion with Ethan wasn't just a celebration of his success. It was a testament to the unbreakable thread of human connection and compassion. In that moment, Maya understood something deeper, that every act of kindness plants a seed, and though we may not always see the blossoms, those seeds grow, reaching far beyond our own sight. This experience transformed Maya's perspective on life. She saw now that hope isn't just a fleeting feeling, but a force that can uplift and empower, even in the darkest times. The warmth she had offered Ethan had come back to her multiplied, reminding her that kindness is never wasted. It is a gift that returns in unexpected, beautiful ways. More than anything, Maya felt inspired to continue living with compassion and openness, to look beyond her own challenges and extend kindness wherever she could. She knew that the world, with all its difficulties, becomes a little brighter when we choose to care for one another. Her story was proof that no gesture is too small to make a difference. As the gala drew to a close and she prepared to leave the grand hall, Maya carried with her a renewed sense of purpose and faith in the goodness of people. She was ready to pay it forward, to be the light in someone else's dark night, just as she once was for Ethan, because sometimes the greatest impact we can have is simply choosing to be kind, and that kindness can change a life, and maybe even the world, one heart at a time. After the gala's glow faded and the guests began to drift away, Maya and Ethan found themselves seated in a quiet corner of the grand hall, away from the chatter and clinking glasses. The evening had been more than a celebration. It was the beginning of something new, something neither of them had anticipated. Ethan spoke softly about his vision for giving back, about building opportunities for others who, like him, had once been lost and forgotten. "I want to start a foundation," he said, eyes shining with passion, "to help people find hope and rebuild their lives. And I want you to be a part of it." Maya smiled, feeling a surge of warmth and purpose. Together, they began to sketch out ideas: a community center, job training programs, shelters, and mentorship. Their dreams intertwined, blending her grounded kindness with his newfound resources and influence. It was clear their lives were now connected in a way that transcended the past, weaving together threads of redemption, gratitude, and shared hope. This wasn't just a reunion. It was the start of a partnership that could transform many more lives. As they spoke late into the night, Maya felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The stranger she once helped on a cold night was no longer a distant memory, but a partner and friend. Their journey had come full circle, evolving into a beacon of possibility for others who needed a hand. Stepping outside into the cool night air, Maya looked up at the stars, bright, endless, and full of promise. She realized that sometimes life's most unexpected moments lead us to where we truly belong. With a hopeful heart, she whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning." And for anyone listening, Maya's story serves as a powerful reminder. Kindness planted in the darkest times can grow into something radiant, reaching far beyond what we imagine. It invites us all to believe in new beginnings and the incredible power of human connection. Because sometimes the smallest act of compassion can light the way to a future filled with hope, purpose, and endless possibility.